We are live.
We are live. So we thought that it made sense to have a caucus of the whole so that we could ask questions and stuff before we go on to the floor. So I have to say, I don't know where our other members are. There's one, Bobby, Andrew, Allison is back there, right here, and Randy there. So the seven of us met mostly on Zoom and came up with about, I would say, 30 maps, maybe.
Close.
Different maps. And I'm not going to give this report. I'm not going to stand up here and talk to you. And I just want to say that in working with these 6 other people really has been a joy. And it was hard to do, but everybody was in there. And I think I heard, I'm just going to share this one thing. I heard from somebody high up in the Democratic Party that they objected to it because we had created Republican districts. And I heard from somebody in the high in the Republican Party that they hated it because we created Democratic districts. So with that, we must have done the right job. I will remind you that we are on the floor of the chamber, so do not throw food at us because John would not like that. Secretary would not like that. And don't throw things like pencils and rubber bands. So you want to take over.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know whether it makes any sense, and I'll spare you the details of the report, which I'm going to give when I do the floor report later. But I will echo the chair's remarks about the congeniality of the 7 people. It's a tripartisan group got together, and as is true all the time when you first, if you've ever joined a team of any type, there's a little bit of getting to know each other kind of thing at the beginning. But by our last, I want to say, dozen meetings, we were all focused on getting the job done and to the best of our ability to fairly and accurately represent the population trends over the last 10 years of Vermont. I think we did a good job. I guess the proof will be in the pudding. I think it makes some sense to just go through each district and see if there are questions or comments that people want to offer. And as is the way we did it in the committee, we're going to start with the southern part of the state first. This, for whatever reason, the bottom 4 counties gave us the least. Yes, Ruth?
I'm sorry, I'm wondering if to start, you could actually just explain the deviation, what that means, especially the overall deviation of 14.4%.
Sure.
And so when we're looking at counties, we can.
I will be doing that again in my report, but I'd be glad to do it here as well.
Yeah, I think that you should do it here so
Okay.
people can understand the deviation by just asking.
So there's 2 things that I think might help everybody understand the process. There's called the ideal district population. According to the final census figures, 2020, Vermont's population is 643,077 people. If you divide that into equal representation in both the House and the Senate districts, you come up with the ideal House district containing 4,287 people. Again, these are ideal numbers. In the Senate, that number is 21,436. For each senator, or for each district, I should say, that is the ideal number of people represented. Then, as Senator Hardy questioned, the percentage deviation is the reflection of the extent to which a particular district is either over or under the ideal Senate population. So generally speaking, if a district has a percentage deviation greater than 10%, either over or under, legal precedent would suggest that the district would likely exceed what is constitutionally acceptable. And when we began our work on January 12th, we had 4 Senate districts that were either over or under by that amount. Senator White?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that when you're doing the deviations here, if a county is a minus, it means that they have too few people in there for the number of senators they have. If the number is a plus, it means that they have too few people. No, the other way around, I'm sorry. So when we started this map, Chittenden County was at a plus 15. That means they had way too many people for the number of senators representing them. So that's what the plus and minus deviation is. And then you add those together. Well, you don't really add them together because you can't add in, but you know, you can add a minus number and come up with a total. Yeah.
So Matt, so is there an acceptable negative deviation and
No, the acceptable is a total deviation. You could, if
Right.
you wanted one county to have a plus 12,
right?
then you really need to make sure that you have a minus 2 or 3.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's,
Thank you.
sorry about
So
that.
again, as I was mentioning, we had 4 districts that were either over or under by more than 10%.
Right.
Madam Chair has just picked on Chittenden because they have the largest deviation, if you will, 15.7% over, too many people, based on the population trends over the last 10 years.
And 15% of a 6-seater.
Yes,
So it's a big number compared to a single-seater, double-seater.
Lamoille and Franklin were both over by 13%. And the Essex Orleans district, which is a 2-member district, was under by a little over 10%. So those are the 4 districts that we felt we were going to have to kind of spend a lot of time on. Does that answer your question, Ruth?
yes, it does.
Okay.
You're right.
I don't want to get too deep into the weeds here.
Okay, the overall deviation for the state, the 14.41, that's over 10%. So what does that mean?
It doesn't.
No, each individual district over by 10%. The overall percentage, as we'll hear later, at 14% is totally acceptable.
Oh,
In
okay.
fact, the other body's overall deviation was 16%.
Okay.
So in that sense, we did a little better job, if you want to look at it that way.
Okay.
That's not a competition.
Is the 14% adding the overs and the unders
Exactly,
together?
exactly.
Okay.
And there's no hard and fast rule about what the deviation should be. Reports won't say an overall deviation of 10 is acceptable, or 16, or 17, or 25. But if you get much, start getting much above, or 15, 16, you're in trouble. And that is grounds for a court challenge, usually. Okay.
So if we can, if you want to look at the map, and we'll just start with Bennington County, and if there are people that represent that county, or I should say district, because
Yes.
sometimes we get caught up with counties and districts. These are Senate districts. You can see that we made some slight alterations to the Bennington district. And what I'm going to do is just go through each district and ask if there are questions or comments that people want to make. Allison?
So Brian, by using the word county, raises one of the 2 biggest values we really ended up juggling with each one of these districts as we created. And one was equity of number, and the other was as much as possible trying to honor county lines. So those were the 2 things we really used as our value drivers as we went through this process together.
And
You know,
those are in the Constitution.
Yeah.
I have the current deviations if you want to go back there, but the ones that are represented will be what this
Yeah.
map reflects.
Can we ask questions about the Bennington district
Sure.
now?
Yes.
Okay, my question is, where do the people in Somerset vote? This has been a problem. Somerset can't get to Dover because there's a mountain. And it's about a 45-minute drive for those 6 people. Is it possible that they vote in Wilmington or somewhere a little closer? They have to vote in Windham County, I think, because they are part of Windham County. It's only 6 people.
Somerset is in Bennington County District, Bennington District.
I realize it's in the Bennington district, but isn't it part of Windham County?
It is part of,
Yes.
so,
The question is, I'm sorry, I'm trying to defend 6 people.
Yeah,
The question is, where do they vote? Because under the current system, they go to Dover, which, as you can see, is right next to Somerset. The problem is, you can't get there without going around, going through Wilmington, and then back up to Dover.
so they could vote in Wilmington.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes, Wilmington is in the Bennington district.
Right, and it also is part of Wyndham County, so if there's a Wyndham County State's Attorney's race or something, they can vote on that.
This, yeah, this does not affect county lines. It doesn't affect any other. If
I understand all that, yeah.
For a state's attorney or a sheriff, it is Wyndham County, not the Senate district.
I understand that. I'm just asking where they can vote, and will it be clear that they can vote in Wilmington rather than Dover?
Why wouldn't
Traditionally, they've been
right in Somerset?
Because there are only 6 people.
only 6 people. Where would you hold the polling place?
So can I think that there's going to be a lot of education needed by a lot of people around these changes. So that's just one of them. Where do those 6 people go? If you look at the map here, there are going to be a lot of towns that don't know where they might be going. I think yes, they can vote in Wilmington, and we will
Thank you.
make that clear to them.
Okay, thank you.
I think Chris has.
Thanks, Rick.
Just, none of this changes where somebody votes. They vote wherever they vote.
Yeah.
The person that checks them in gives them a ballot based on what district they live in. But we don't mess with poll locations or any of that. Just like right now in Burlington, there's all manner of crazy divisions.
Sorry.
Right? And so when you walk in, I could go to a polling place that my neighbor goes to, and we might be in different house districts, but the same city ward. And so when you check in, that's when it'll inform the ballot. But we're not changing where you vote.
You've missed the point of my question. Unfortunately, what I'm saying is the people in Somerset, because it's in Wyndham County, technically, will be voting for Wyndham County people other than the 2 senators. They will vote for they're part of this district. They are forced to vote in Dover because Dover's right next to Somerset. You just can't get there. All I'm asking is if we need an amendment to move those folks to Wilmington so they can vote in Wilmington and not have to drive all the way to Dover.
Well, I think that's something that the Secretary of State, once we get this done, the Secretary of State has to make the ballots for all the people. And since they are in the Bennington district, I don't know how they'll do that, but they would probably go to Wilmington to actually cast their ballots, or they might just mail them in.
Well, that would be easier. I'm
Yeah.
raising it because it came up 10 years ago, if you remember, and the other senator from Wyndham at the time, we had an agreement, and the other senator from Wyndham, if you remember who that might have been, objected to the agreement, and the people have been left to go to Dover to vote for the last 10 years.
I think that the Secretary of State making up the ballots and telling people where to vote and stuff will be,
Okay, so we don't need an amendment.
no, we do not.
Thank you.
Any other questions on Bennington's district? Let's move to the east to Wyndham. Does anyone have issues, concerns, comments to make about the Wyndham senatorial district?
Not going there again.
Okay, the Rutland district. The only change here, well, there's 2. We moved Pittsfield to Windsor and took back Mount Holly. Those are the only 2 changes in the Rutland district. I personally don't have any issues with it. Cheryl seems to be satisfied. The Windsor district. And I'll look especially to those folks who are currently representing that district, not that that is important, you have a better sense of how those people are together and the affinity to different towns. We did make some moves in Windsor, there's no question.
You want
I
me
don't
to
see anybody's hand.
Their question. You shouldn't have a question.
I have no questions. Surprise, surprise.
She was on the committee.
I know, rare.
Addison. Yes, Ruth?
I don't have a question, I just wanted to, on the floor, I'll probably say something about Huntington. They really did not want to stay in the Addison district. I understand why the numbers ended up where they were, but I might just say something just out of empathy with their
Okay,
concerns.
and that's fair.
Just so you know, I know that I had talked to my buddy in the committee about it early on in the process. But I understand that the numbers didn't work out because of the complexities with Chittenden County, but I will probably say something
Okay.
after your report.
Can I just, that just made me think that all of us heard from a lot of different people and some more vocal than others. I am a little bit worried about getting on the floor and making a statement like that about Huntington. Because then somebody will need to do the same thing about Rochester and about Pittsfield. And if and nobody is gonna be completely happy. So I'm just worried that if we start making comments about the people that objected or didn't object, that we'll be here all day. And then we have to, I think, acknowledge all of the people that were moved. So that's just you will do what you want to do, but I do think that it's would be unfortunate if we started lamenting what.
I hear you.
I could go into a big one.
Chris?
Yes, we could all do it.
I'm speaking in favor of, as Walker as it is, of what the chair is suggesting, because when one person speaks about a town law and then others don't, then by implication, it's as though you didn't speak up on behalf of it.
Right.
And then that compels others to feel like, oh, they have to show up.
I'm just saying it now then.
Okay.
Okay, we are on the record now. We are on the record now.
Okay.
Hey, Brian,
There's your shout out, Huntington, I tried.
I would, in the comparison, if the senator from Addison had to speak, I would feel I had to speak for Stowe.
Fair. Okay, fair.
Jesus
Okay, I wasn't there.
I'd ask
All right. I
Enough.
hear everyone, I hear
Enough.
everyone. I will not say anything. Okay, thank you.
Let's move to,
Brian,
Brian, I think that's
yep,
just before we leave the good Huntington, for senators, should know Huntington is part of a unified school district that runs right up the eastern part of the county. They wrote one of the more compelling letters to us even before the session started about wishing to be back. And I sat down and the very first map I drew had them back. And the second map I drew brought them back. There were two challenges. Addison County was short people and they were going to take people. And it was sort of a Huntington, Buell's Gore or a Charlotte. We had hilarious discussions where we finally acknowledged no town wants to be removed in a Senate district that's not part of their county. Obviously, no town is saying, please send me over the border in that sense. And so obviously you're trying to balance the whole thing out. There was no way to do a Senate district that included the MMU school district, which was the request, that didn't interrupt the CVU district. So you can't very well apply the map for one principle at Eastern Chittenden County and trash that same principle for the southern part of the county. It was very difficult. And in the end, Huntington's been ably represented by the current Addison County senators, and that was the map that balanced out the easiest. And none of us, I don't think, were satisfied, but this is not a project at total satisfaction in any way. So just offer that comment.
okay, so we've gotten through 5. Let's move to Washington. Are there issues or questions or comments about the Washington district? Okay. How about Orange?
Orange is crystal clear.
Well, thank you, Senator McDonald. That's perfect. Caledonia. This is the one that was formerly a two-person district, and it lost lots of towns. I think the appropriations chair said she felt like a universal donor, more towns than probably anybody else. But that's what it is now. It's a single-member district.
Can I add one thing to Brian? When we started this, we had two maps presented to us by the, and one had old one-member districts and one was somewhat closer to this. But we did not take a position that we wanted one-member, two-member, three-member districts. That was had we taken that stance that we were only going to have two or only one, the map would look very different and nobody would be happy. So I just wanted to point out that, and we did not want to create more three-member districts, but that's just the way it had to happen. So just wanted you to know that we didn't aim for one or two or three-member districts.
Okay, so now we've moved up to Essex.
The province of Quebec is fine that I've got some of their territory. The Caucus and who knew about the 3 towns in New Hampshire, and we're good.
All right. Anybody else have a comment, question about the Essex? How about Orleans district?
Orleans is fine.
Thank you. Lamoille.
And this is a place where Richie certainly would have had the ability to stand up and apologize to the Stowe people, but
Yeah.
some people felt strongly that Stowe should stay in Lamoille, and yet what we heard is that Stowe really is not the heart of Morrisville, is the heart of Lamoille County, and that Stowe is a huge economic driver, but it's for the whole region.
Well, I would say you had a very difficult job in my county. My county's growing in population. And everybody wanted to be within the county, and you can't make the deviation work without it. It's for the towns in my county, it's a bad choice for the ones that had to go, regardless of who went.
I just make a comment. Sure. 20 years ago, Bennington County took the town of Wilmington. And Wilmington's attitude was, we don't like it, but this is great because now we have 4 senators.
Yeah.
And they have continued to invite Wyndham to every event that should go to. So I think sometimes you can make lemonade out of lemons, and that's one
I
of the
will,
things.
I will continue to get calls from Stowe, as I got calls from Wilcott over the last 10 years.
It's amazing the number of events we end up in Wilmington, and now I'm ending up in Dover, which I've never represented.
No, you don't represent Dover.
I know, but I never have, but
I know.
we end up getting invited to
events
the
sometimes.
Wilmington Dover for a commerce meeting.
Yeah, got it.
All right, we only have 2 left. Franklin. The Franklin district. Questions, comments? And now we move to the area of the state that had the largest increase in population, presenting the most challenges in one way, coupled with the fact that we passed a couple years ago a law that said we can no longer have a 6-pack, so-called. And so we wound up with 2 3s and a 1. And I'll just, yes, Senator Booth.
I just wanted to express appreciation to the committee to go back to one of the basic principles that Senator White put out, trying as much as possible to stay with county boundaries. Some of the earlier maps had Burlington by itself, and I thought that was a potentially dangerous direction for redistricting to go, because then maybe you wind up with Essex ultimately with its own senator. Those people would be disadvantaged in the building because they would truly only represent one city. Everybody else would patronize to them and say, you don't understand things outside your city. As it is drawn now, you bring in Winooski and Essex Junction, and that does take in a wider area, and I think it gives that 3-seater more legitimacy. So I know you all had a very tough series of challenges with Chittenden, I was amazed to see that you created something that I think sticks with the spirit of the Constitution and yet breaks up what was an unconscionably large district.
Well, the senator to your left, not politically, is.
My buddy.
Yeah, I mean, he worked hard.
Yeah.
He devised, for all intents and purposes, the Chittenden district with the help of the other senators from the sector. So, yeah, I think, again,
I think that Philip's statement speaks to the wisdom and the aggregate intelligence of your committee, of your reapportionment committee.
Absolutely.
I would also like to say. So as having served in the House for 12 years and having served in the Senate for 6, I have to say this also, Phil, represents one of the values of a senator is that they represent regionally rather than simply one monoculture of one town.
Yeah.
So I think to Chris's credit, we reminded, this was really another value we worked on is we're trying to maintain regional representation, which is really the vision that the senator brings to things, which is very helpful. So this map in Chittenden County preserved that.
so we're already a few minutes for the floor, but I'll just go through them quickly in case there are specific things in that area. So what we call now the Chittenden Grand Isle, are we, okay? Chittenden North. Chittenden Southeast. And finally, I think we call that one Chittenden Central, I believe is how we, and we had to come up with the names of these too. We didn't realize that there's a convention about naming districts, but that's what we came up with.
And then there's going to be the challenge in this very room, which we don't have to deal with, but where do people sit?
Who gets the new license plate?
What number do they get?
No, I think the Senate Secretary's already.
Right, but we don't have to deal with that. And how does the Lieutenant Governor, when calling on the senator from Chittenden Northeast, I mean, how, those are just, we didn't deal with that, those things at all, just how to name the district. Senator.
Get complicated.
So my hope is that when we gavel in, this will be the first bill taken up.
Well,
And since we've had 40 minutes of time to kind of chew it out, that we'll be able to move through it rather quickly. And our plan, at least the committee's plan, is to put it in all remaining stages of passage today, message it, and be done. So, last shot at anything here?
Thank you very much.
Good job.